A very good afternoon to you all. A very warm welcome to our mini conference this afternoon. It's terrific to see so many of you here with us to discuss what I'm sure you all regard as an incredibly important topic. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Mark Titterington. About 15, 16 years ago, together with my good friend and colleague Thierry de la Sky, we had this bright idea of founding something called the Forum for the Future of Agriculture. And 16 years later, here we are, dealing with some of the most important topics, I think, in how we transform our food and agriculture system, not just in Europe, but globally, and that clearly touches on many of the geopolitical challenges that we face, as well as those to do with productivity and efficiency and modernization in agriculture, and also the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just over 900 days since Russia invaded Ukraine. And to quote the words of President von der Leyen over the weekend, I think it's clear what we stand for today as it was back in February 2022. Ukraine must prevail, it must be rebuilt, and it must be masters of its own future. And I think we'll keep that in mind as we go through. Clearly, this must mean that Ukraine is enabled with the tools and support that it needs in order to defend itself, but also means providing all the assistance, both technical as well as financial, that is necessary to put the country back on the road to recovery, to resume the trajectory that it had before February 2022, and to make good on the potential that I think all of us feel that country has. Certainly for me personally, I've got a long-standing connection to Ukraine, and so I'm really delighted to be here and in this position to moderate today's discussion with you. Over the last couple of days into last week, we've had two really important events. We had the Berlin Recovery Conference last week, which reinforced and started to deliver on certainly some of the financial commitments that were made in London last year. And of course, the first peace summit that took place in Switzerland over the weekend, perhaps beginning to sketch out what the terms or conditions or framework might be for how we move forward. The Berlin conference in particular looked at how we can invest in, provide the assistance that Ukraine needs across the economic spectrum, digitization, raw materials, IT, renewable energy, the critical infrastructure that is necessary. But of course, today our mini conference is focusing on what is arguably Ukraine's most important sector. For all of us that have spent time in the country, that's agriculture. 10% of the country's GDP, majority of its exports, critical supplier, of course, to the European Union, and responsible for feeding hundreds of millions of people around the world. There is a global imperative and a shared collective European responsibility, I think, to make good on some of the commitments that we've got. It's for all those reasons that I couldn't be more delighted that the Forum for the Future of Agriculture is partnering with SEMA, the European Association of Agriculture Machinery, and with the European Landowners Organization to host today's conference. I'm very much looking forward to what comes from it. A special mention to Nazar Babitsky from the Ukrainian Club of Agribusiness, and of course to Gilles Driancourt from John Deere. Both of you, I know we collaborated last year on a similar event in November. It's great to be able to come together and put this on. So thank you very much indeed to both of you for your efforts in catalyzing today's discussion. We're going to look at today's meeting through three really distinct lenses, and we've got some expert contributors to help guide us in our discussion. But I also want to make this a dialogue. I mean, all of you have made the effort to join us this afternoon. This event, if I'm not mistaken, Emma, was oversubscribed 2 to 3 times. So if you're in the room, you really are amongst the privileged few that have been able to get a seat and join us here today. So I will be making you work for your seat as well, and looking forward to your contribution. So 3 distinct lenses that we're going to touch on. First of all, what the Ukraine facility plan can mean, how it can support agriculture recovery in the country. Secondly, the importance of rebuilding, restoring, expanding Ukraine's access to global agriculture markets. And then we'll also look at the regional framework, the regional context in which all of this takes place. And by that, I mean, of course, the relationship and the framework that will need to be developed between the European Union and Ukraine in order to facilitate that.